Hey, if it don't work out, if that therapy, I wouldn't work hard at it because you can claim disability and send the bill to Brian Johnson because we're all employees of his outfit. Exactly.
Welcome to the Goteez Sports Page, coming to you live from the Bluetick Tavern in Maryville at 92.5 FM and 1180 AM. Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Bringing you the best in Blount County sports since 1978. Featuring the Greenfield Gunner, Mike Edwards, former Maryville Scott, Donnie Moore, and from the Daily Times, Marcus Fitzsimmons.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, and I'm here at the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville, along with Blount County Sports Hall of Famer Donnie Moore and longtime sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons. Carson Newman assistant football coach Tony Iruli is here with us, along with ex-Alcoa basketball standout Dwayne Easter. The Masters Golf Tournament is in full swing, and we're going to the whistle blows. And now let's set today's lineup card. Donnie Moore will fill us in on the latest high school sports news, and we'll follow up with the top national sports stories. Marcus Fitzsimmons will be on board to update us on what's happening in local high school sports, and we'll cover the teams and individuals who are making a mark. Today, Marcus talks some Maryville High School baseball, and I'll jump in and talk some UT sports news and preview the orange and white football game. We're happy you're all with us. And let's break the huddle and dive right in. And first of all, Donnie Moore, we're glad to see you back in here this morning.
Yes, we are.
You're fit and fiddle.
Thank you. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
It's been a long haul so far, and I'm not out of the woods yet, but it's like I said, it's slow but steady improvement. So.
It's the price we all pay for being old, isn't it?
That's right. Worst part about it is just being left-handed.
Yeah.
You know, for our folks that are watching the video, they're probably very confused because you're sitting on the opposite side of the table for the first time in 20 years?
Yes. Many. And lawn, see.
There'll be words coming out of you that we're not sure if it's allowed.
I may not be responsible for what I say.
I sat in that seat before. I know you're not responsible.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you back.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and Dwayne Easter, yesterday you were over at UT for the Hall of Fame banquet. Tony White, who's been with us on several occasions here, went in to the hall over there. Tell us a little bit about that evening, huh?
Yeah, that was a nice event. Tony did well. He got up and gave a speech, and it's a lot of dignitaries there, and had Eric Berry. He got in the hall too, but it's a good night for Tony, and I'm tickled for him. He had a lot of his family was there. One of his kids, was the assistant coach at LSU. He was there. But yeah, it was a good night. Mike Keith was there. He kind of was the MC type person. He did a good job, and
He was on the line for going into that, but since he came on this show, Donnie, we pulled him over the top on it, didn't we?
Yeah.
We made him famous, Coach Iruli, right here on this show.
We turned the tide, didn't we?
That's right. like it or not.
Yeah, and Coach Iruli, spring football is over, and you had some clinics down there and some exciting things going on at Carson Newman.
Very good over at Carson Newman. We had our spring game last Saturday. Good attendance. Came out for the spring game, and so. We really had a very strong, very positive spring. We had 15 practices. We went through spring with very little injuries. We were getting ready to finish our 15th practice this past week, and we went out on the field, and 10 minutes later, lightning strikes all around us and all that. So we canceled our number 15 practice, but it was great. And again, Coach Ashley Ingram has done a great job leading our program, and so we're obviously looking forward to the upcoming season.
And next season looks good. You had a great year this past season.
Great year, good recruiting. I tell you, we had 110 guys out there for spring football.
Wow.
Goodness.
Yeah, and
Y'all have that many Bojangles coupons?
Yes, and we're about to extend them real quick.
Almost as many as Alcoa, isn't it?
You know, I know. We're just trying to keep up with the Bojangles over from Alcoa and all that. And that's the way y'all keep them over there.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's been real good. It's good to be among friends today.
Yeah. And Marcus Fitzsimmons, since we're going around the table, how's your life?
Well, Mike, it was a really good week for me because I got to start it off well. Because Tuesday night I was over for the dedication of the new Everett Field.
Yeah.
Beautiful facility. We've talked with Joe Huff and Chris Clark about it when they've been here, but they got the last finishing touches on it. The new bathrooms, new press box. The field looks great. I think they're talking to them yesterday at Parks and Rec. The final touch is going to be some new security cameras that they're going to be adding over there and taking out and replacing some of those trees behind the end zone down towards River Road. And but it's just beautiful.
You have to see it to appreciate it.
You really have to. You really do, and you have to see it at night. Really, I mean, it looks good during the day, but with the new LED lights they've got on it, I don't know if you. I never got to play on it as a player. I've been out there to.
I played on that field many a time.
I have too.
But I went out there to trying to take pictures. That dark end zone is no longer there. I mean, it is bright. It's illuminated.
Good.
There was about a maybe 10-yard line into the goalpost. It just disappeared. You couldn't see a kid back there before with those old mercury lights. So the new LED lights are awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
But the mayor was out there. They had some county commissioners out there, Parks and Rec commissioners out there, and it was a real good thing. And I also brag a little bit that that was a Blount County project through Parks and Rec, but Alcoa is also doing some of the facility over at the Springbrook Rec Center. So they're getting some new flooring in there, which was really well needed. So I'm glad Alcoa is helping them out.
Yeah, I think a lot of the schools and the programs around there are really pushing hard of upgrading all the facilities. The Ingleton's baseball field over there that they just put together. I mean, it's really outstanding.
Yeah. All the football fields now have artificial.
Yeah, and so I think they've made a big jump, a significant jump in the facilities, which has been great.
And I think that what they did over at Everett was outstanding because they brought in the tradition of Everett High School there.
Right.
The
end zones say Everett, and then they've got the big bulldog.
Yeah.
It's not the original bulldog logo because Everett closed so long ago. That was before you were computerizing graphics. So the old bulldog was not really friendly as a logo for a field. But they did a good job doing something similar and kind of modernizing it.
Yeah, it looks like the Butler Bulldog.
Yeah, it does.
But I did promise Joe that I would give a shout out to folks that they are hiring lifeguards right now, and the pools are scheduled to open May 16 and May 23rd. So the pool is just a month away. So if you've got kids for swim lessons and all of that, get on there and get busy because it's that time of year. As hard as it is to believe with the weather today, pool season is 4 weeks away.
Coach, I really put your Speedo on and sign up for the lifeguard.
Well, there's some things that you should not envision seeing. All right.
I'll pay for that
I'm just telling you right now, and you would get 100% verification from my family. Me and Speedos is something that you don't want to see. All right. So.
Hey, I've got some. I started off this week, and I didn't really. Know what I was going to do for Let Her Rip, but
that should be taken care of.
I got all kinds of Let Her Rip this morning, so I got several segments of Let Her Rip this morning.
You got lots of choices.
I'll start off here. First of all, I'm ripping the NCAA Women's Final Four. UConn and Gino Auriemma won the program's 12th title and didn't even break a sweat. The Lady Huskies disposed of UCLA 85-51 and followed that butt kicking up with another butt kicking as they destroyed South Carolina and Dawn Staley 82-59. And to get to the championship game, South Carolina blasted Texas 74-57. Four quality teams made it all the way to the Final Four, and the games were as boring as watching paint dry on a Saturday night.
Really?
So anybody got any answers for that? Because those games just kind of put you to sleep.
It just really surprised me the final against South Carolina. Because I don't think I've ever seen South Carolina get blown out like they did, and they weren't even a factor.
They got woman handled.
They got womanized. Yes.
And Marcus, we talked a little bit about this last week. Tennessee, I think, really did Gino Auriemma and his Huskies a favor by beating them over here because they did nothing but get better.
Well, he
that
said
loss over
said
here.
that was kind of the turning point in their season. Even the players did their loss to Tennessee, and then they just kind of regrouped and got it going after that loss.
Yeah.
And the thing was, I believe they played South Carolina right after they played Tennessee, blew them out in Columbia.
Yeah.
But then it was kind of silent because they were in their conference schedule. And we went about 5 weeks without really seeing UConn play anybody or even really hearing about them. And then you get into the postseason, and it's like, well, I guess UConn's for real after all.
Yeah.
Because the only thing we'd seen of them as far as games against teams that counted had been before they played Tennessee and were kind of struggling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Donnie Moore, a lot of people were thinking Gino Auriemma was on his way out and down and over the hill and out the door, and because he's been there but hadn't been able to, to pull a championship off. But there he did it again.
That's
number
true.
12, and all 12 of those are his.
Right, exactly.
I don't think he's going anywhere.
That's for sure.
I don't think he's going anywhere soon now.
No, he seems to be rejuvenated.
Yeah, that's right.
Doesn't
He's
he?
all jacked up. Yeah.
That winning will do that to you, won't it?
It happens. That's right.
But Gino, as much as you may like or dislike him, he has a thing with motivating players that I think is pretty much gone in college athletics. But if you saw what he was doing with some of his players, especially in calling them out in press conferences, and calling them out on ESPN before the game, he motivates players in an old school way that you just don't see coaches doing anymore. They're
worried about lawsuits.
Yeah, they're worried. They're worried the players will walk away, and Gino doesn't seem to be scared of that at all.
Yeah, he's old school, and when you win national championships and you have the record he has there, you can be a little bit more hard on players in this day and age, I think, than you could if you weren't winning and you were just starting out. But
so how many's he got now? Is it 12?
He's got 12.
12.
And I want to ask everybody here, if Pat Head Summit had not had her sickness and she was able to go ahead and coach, and she was still coaching as we're talking right here, I'm wondering, and I'm raising the question, UConn's got 12 and she won 8. Where would that be right now? That's a tough question to answer, isn't it?
She could very easily be knocking on the door of going neck and neck with Gino.
I think some
she
of those
would have taken him. I think he might have had the lead at this point, but I think Tennessee would be in double digits.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think it would be like 10 to 11, 10 to 10. Maybe
Wouldn't be surprised.
Unfortunately, we'll never know that, but. What a great rivalry that was back in the day. Both teams having great players,
and she was. I mean, that's the one thing they both have. Gino and Pat have in common is they're both great motivators, and individual, like as far as working with a player individually to develop their skills while they're with the program, they're both really, really good at that. Now, I think and the one thing Pat always did was, if you ever read any of her books, she always adapted to the changes in the game. The thing that really impressed me was when the first time she had to go with, we have a true all-star scorer, how do we do this? She goes to the Chicago Bulls and gets lessons in how they ran the triangle offense with Jordan.
Yeah.
And what does Tennessee do? They execute that for 2 years and get back-to-back titles.
Yeah.
Right.
And then one year they had assistant coach over there, Al Brown. They put in the zone full-court press. And they hadn't been running the press over there, and they put it in. He sold them on the deal, and they won another national.
I mean, she was always very adaptable to the changes in the game, so I think she would have adapted very well to the changes.
Well, Gino, he's still kind of using the same system he has in the
He's always had a good motion system, and he's adapted it some, but
Pat was such a good motivator too. Those speeches, I love watching some of those speeches on YouTube that she used to give to the team. You don't see that as much.
Yeah. Well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. What I'm saying? That's but I'll tell you something. What amazes me about UConn is they don't play in a very strong league. Those women's team in the Big East not very strong. But he does a really good job of going out and scheduling the powers, for his other games. He played South Carolina, he played Notre Dame, he plays Tennessee, plays Stanford. You know, he plays those teams that he knows he's going to have to
well,
face.
well,
later
yeah,
in the
he has to because, like you said, it's not a very strong conference, and he's got to be able to find teams that's going to challenge them.
Yeah.
You know, at different points of the season.
Yeah. Whereas a lot of schools might have gone out and and scheduled somebody that's not as strong as some of those other schools. You know, just up the record.
Well, I think the women's game is still different in that way, and that the perennial, call them the top dozen or so teams, still try to schedule each other as much as possible before the conference season starts, because let's face it, that was a Summit. That's a Summit moniker. That was what she did, and everybody copied it.
Yeah.
Let me give a shout out to our good friend Charlie Paleo down near Atlanta.
Do we have to?
Hopefully everything's fine. Charlie sent us a graphic here just a minute ago about the NCAA Women's Final Four. Last year, 2024, they had 10.8 million viewers for the Final Four. This year they have 3.9 million viewers.
That's because
that's Caitlin Clark versus Paige Beckers.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, what's that?
Breaking news,
Hey,
Marcus.
We're going to get to that here in just a second. I got one other thing to tear up right here, but I'm going to rip into Houston a little bit. 19 seconds to go in the game the other night in the national championship game.
I can't believe they didn't get a shot
19 seconds
off.
to go. You take a timeout and set up a play, and you don't get a shot.
That's just that's crushing right there.
Yeah, Dwayne Easter, how do you do that? We could have drawn that up.
Yeah.
Huh?
Have you
you
ever
didn't get a
seen a
shot.
game in that way, though?
No.
With that particular play, I've never seen that before.
And you know, when it materialized at the end, I think the ball's going around, and you say, well, the game's over, and Florida's like, they're just stunned that they never got a shot off. Did you? The bench was just standing over. Did you notice that? You would think that they would be jumping up and down because the ball's laying on the floor, but they were just like, can you believe this?
Like a deer in the headlights.
They're all standing there with the mouths wide open, got the hands behind. They can't believe what they just saw.
Like I said, you never see that in a game. You never see that. Yeah. I mean, that's like something you see in Junior Pro Biddy League where a player does that. And I think everybody was so stunned that it happened, nobody knew how to react. And they were like,
none of the players even went after the ball.
Or is he setting us up for something? Is this a trick play? I think they were just stunned and had no idea how to react to it.
If he had touched the ball again,
he
could have been a double dribble.
Dribble. Yeah, they were lost possession.
He had to just leave it alone.
So
but
he
knew it, and
but anything he could do about it.
I don't know in that situation.
He was trying to block the other team off. I'm
sitting there thinking, 19 seconds to go. You got the ball right there. I would just call timeout. Say, I don't care who's got the ball here, but you're going straight to the basket with it.
Right.
You're going downhill with the ball. We're going to hope to get fouled or maybe 3-point, or we're going to get. There was no opportunity out there for anything to happen.
No,
but they were out of timeouts. Though
they did a couple of passes and
it had to be a 3-point shot, right?
Yeah,
because they were down by 3.
I thought the whole maneuver was poor because you got 19 seconds left and you're down 2. If you wait to that clock to run all the way down, and you put the ball up, you have no chance. But if you put the ball in bounds and you get a good shot right there in the first 4 or 5 seconds, you still give your team a chance to win if you don't get the shot.
Right.
But if you put it all into the last shot there, like they did, then that's it. That you don't have any opportunity. But with 10 seconds left on the clock, if they get a board, you can still foul and still maybe have another opportunity. But
like I said, they didn't have any timeouts to do that, though.
Yeah. So now to the big news. Nico,
it's just coming across.
Iamaleava is parting ways with UT.
Well, no, it's the other way around from what we're seeing on ESPN right now. It looks like Tennessee is cutting ways with Nico.
Yeah. Well, it's they're broke up. The relationship appears to be over.
I don't know if we're ready to sing a Taylor Swift song or not, but they may. From what we're seeing right now, it looks like they may never ever be getting back together.
Yeah, Tony, I really. This deal, just to kind of refresh everybody's memory out there, he came in and he signed an $8 million deal, supposedly, which was $2 million a year, and he redshirted a year, and got paid for a redshirt year, I'm sure.
Got paid $2 million.
Yeah, and then
not to play.
This past December, last year, he led them to the playoffs last year, got hammered by Ohio State, didn't have the year I think a lot of people expected him to have. It was a good year, but it wasn't that great.
Well,
great
he's
year.
a redshirted freshman.
I understand.
Okay, and so there's growing up to do and all that. So,
but because of the playoffs and what had happened, he wanted to renegotiate his deal, his NIL deal, and then in December they renegotiated Tennessee, and they upped it to $2.4 million, $2,400,000. And that appeared to be what was going to take place. And then all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, and surprised to me, and I think everybody else, and supposedly from what I'm reading, the coaches and the players on the team, when he didn't show up to practice yesterday, it was a surprise to them. And he was supposedly with his representatives in a renegotiate deal on his NIL situation here at Tennessee. And they were going back to what they originally asked for in December, which was $4 million. Is that pretty much the way it was, Marcus?
That's what we're hearing.
Yes.
Is that at some point during spring practice they said to the, not UT but the collective, that they wanted $4 million and that they weren't happy with the 2.4. And then yesterday he did not show up at practice, and nobody was prepared for that. And what's happened since that practice ended to this morning to what we're seeing right now from the university in what is hours before the orange and white game is that the collective and the university have decided that they aren't interested in keeping Nico with those kind of demands.
And I guess, Tony, really the great thing about it is you don't have a contract, so you don't owe him anything.
There is a contract, but it requires him to be there.
Yeah,
but he broke the contract.
But it's not like a signed deal contract where you're there and obligated for so many years, 4 years or whatever.
Well, this is the difference between the NFL and college.
You're not held there. You're not.
I mean, it's basically what you see in preseason in the NFL, where players don't show up for practice in fall camp because they're holding out for a deal. It's just we're not ready. We saw this for 3 days maybe during the season out at Utah, where the quarterback wanted to raise his NIL middle of the week after the season had started. But this is new ground. This is a player. This is player walking out, holding out.
I think a couple of things led to this. I think the Carson Beck deal at Georgia, where he left Georgia and went to Florida State. Right. Is that correct?
Yeah. How that worked out.
Yeah, and then you got the deal where some of these publications have come out and they're showing Nico in the top 10 as far as quarterbacks for next year in the nations. I think one publication had him as high as 8. So there you got some negotiating power.
And a lot of these publications are written by people who have no stinking idea on judgment and all that.
Yeah,
and,
they were not watching the same film we were.
No. And it's all I can say is this is like we talked about. This is the Pandora's box that's open, where you're seeing things that you just can't believe it's happening.
But we knew it would.
But we knew, we would be going.
We knew stuff like this was going to happen.
Exactly.
Well, this is where I was irritating people yesterday because I was saying, okay, if he wants to make the demand, you've got his contract. Your collective has his NIL contract. Trade him to Vanderbilt for their quarterback. Let the collectives trade the contracts and let the players move. There's nothing that says you can't do that.
No, there's not.
So you can have players move after the season. You can have players move in the spring. I mean, there is no team building anymore.
Now Tennessee, the way I'm seeing it right now, since he's heading, they've got $2.4 million that they were going to pay him. So they can do a couple of things. That $2.4 million, they can take that money and they can go out to the transfer portal.
Sure.
They can try to find somebody else, or they can go with the quarterbacks they've got right there. Right there, draw their whole team in there and say, guys, we got $2.4 million. We're going to divvy it up to you guys. We're going to divvy it all up to you guys because we think that highly of you, and we're going to go with our family right here, and we're going to rally around a quarterback that we've signed right here, and we're going to go with next year.
As much as I'd love to hear that, I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah.
But for the other factor in this is the portal opens next Saturday. April 19th. Okay. So that could have been part of the reason that they had timed it now. It seems like they were trying Nico's entourage, because the word is that there is an entourage and perhaps not the best influences on a teenager.
Oh my goodness.
May have impacted this, but you're a week away from the portal and you can walk out right before the orange and white game and put maximum pressure on that collective, and it looks like it blew up in their face.
Yeah. So, well, I will say this though, I got to hand it to you if it comes out the way we're kind of hearing it right now, that they told them just to hit the road. All right, I hand it to Tennessee. You know, someone doing something like that, and
my guess would be that there is not a Power 4 school in the country that didn't try to call somebody at UT last night and say, don't you all dare cave into this, because we're not going to cave into this. We don't want this in our backyard too.
Yeah, because
I sure wouldn't want to be the first that caved.
Because now it just opens up the doors for other teams doing the same thing and all. And you don't have to worry about an offensive guard doing something like this. Yeah. Or a defensive tackle.
But Tony, explain this to our listeners out there. You know, you're a college football coach, and you go to practice such as yesterday, and your players are there to practice and get ready for the spring game.
Yeah.
And then you get this news about this quarterback that's going to be a big part of your program for the coming year, that you've spent all spring and you've invested in him. He's gotten the majority of the snaps and so forth, and he's just left you.
Right.
High and dry. You know, how does a coaching staff and the players react to something like that?
First of all, the players are pissed off. Excuse me for saying that, but they are. I mean, because that's who the team's kind of built around, the quarterback. And he's taking all the snaps. He's supposed to be the leader and all that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's abandoned them. And, and so he would have a hard time kind of going through this and coming back.
Yeah.
Because, I guarantee you, if I was a starting left tackle, I would accidentally miss my block. Throwing him on the backside just to know that he's got my attention. Yeah. And loyalty is very strong, especially in college football, where everyone's supposed to have their backs. And this is not a case of having someone's back. It's all about me. To heck with you. I'm the quarterback. I'm going to get all this. Forget you, offensive guard. Forget you, the defensive tackle. Forget you, the nose guard. Hey, it's all about me. And
this will probably follow him from here on out.
No, probably. This follows him from here on out.
Yeah.
And Tony, from a coaching standpoint, it kind of goes against what you're really trying to get across to kids. You know, the togetherness, the team aspects, the camaraderie, everything you're trying to do as a coach and get them better, not only as a student athlete, so to speak.
Sure.
I know that's kind of a lost term, but as a student athlete, but a preparation for life. This whole thing just to me is the wrong model and the wrong signal to send
Well,
to kids.
that's Division I football. Thank goodness, at Carson with Division II programs, even Division III, you have that team building where you're building that team up from your freshmen, sophomores, and growing, and that togetherness. Division I is whole different now. I mean, it's the free agency model of it's more free agency than the NFL. In the NFL, you got contracts that bind you for 3-4 years to build that team. Now these college kids, they're going from school to school to school, where now you're playing 4 or 5 different teams. How's that happen?
Well, see, this is what I said, that I hoped every Power 4 school was calling Tennessee to say, stick to your guns. Yeah. I hope that's true, and I also hope it's also reciprocally true that we see something like we saw at Ohio State on a total different matter 20 years ago with a running back that had a phenomenal freshman year.
Yeah, what was his name again?
I know
won
the
Heisman,
talking about. But that there's no place for him to go in Power 4.
Right.
That everybody backs Tennessee, gives him no place to go in the Power 4. You can go Division II, you can go Division III, fine.
Yeah.
You can go to Boise State maybe, someplace like that. Yeah. But the Power 4 is going to turn their back on you, just to set the precedent that this isn't the way things are going to be.
Yeah. Donnie Moore.
Will they do that? I don't know.
I mean,
but you're right. You're right. I mean,
you're talking about a 19-year-old kid with $4.5 million in his pocket.
Yeah.
Or his parents' pocket.
Yeah.
Somebody's pocket. So
get in trouble.
I mean,
with that.
You look at this and you say, well, he's leaving for the money. But I'm a little bit more old school than that. Basically, he's quitting. He's quitting here at Tennessee to go somewhere else, whether it be for money or whatever. He's quitting. And you know what Bear Bryant, Donnie, used to say about quitting? He says, once you do it the first time, it's not so hard after that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, the
It's not so
question
hard
would be,
and
is,
if it goes go back to Marcus, if he goes someplace else, what's going to keep him if things don't go real well halfway through the year, saying, I'm going to head out here and go.
Well, you would think
else.
if you were making this demand, you were making the case that somebody out there was willing to give you 4, and that was your price to stay. You're hoping that wasn't a bluff for him, or maybe you're not, because if it was a bluff, he is literally out in the cold now, and he may be sitting on the couch for 2 years before he can go in the NFL draft.
Let's compare this. I mean, this is a sudden deal. This is a sudden deal.
Yeah,
It is.
Hot off the press.
I mean, we just saw
Hot
it.
off the press.
Hot off the press. This is a sudden deal. So my question, and anybody can jump in here that wants to, how does this compare to Lane Kiffin and his exit from here? Huh? I mean, we got 2 exits going on here.
Well, it's different.
Pretty abrupt.
Kiffin's was a decision to leave. This is a decision where the collective and the university are saying, we're not negotiating, you go ahead and go.
Yeah.
My question is it really him that wants to do this, or there's people around him that are encouraging him?
That is literally the $4 million question.
Yeah.
I personally, I think he's got all these so-called advisors now around him, and I think they're giving him a bunch of bad advice because he's a 19-year-old kid.
Bad intel.
Yeah, who really is not as smart as he thinks he is, and he's got all these different handlers around him giving him bad information. All of a sudden now it blows up, and he's going to be looking at the mirror and saying, what the hell did I just do here?
So was he being a good leader as far as the team, Nico? I mean,
well, if you want to judge by the game results, I mean, I guess you could give him a B from last season.
Yeah.
I mean, there were games where I would say the Alabama game where he showed that he could be a leader.
Yeah, he stepped up.
But if you looked at how unresilient they were in the last game of the year, I don't know that you could.
Yeah.
But then again, that was where the whole renegotiation for a raise started too.
Yeah. And I still think though, he's a redshirted freshman, all right, and there's going to be a growing process, and he's going to be times that he looks pretty dang on good, and there'll be times that he's going to be making mistakes and being a 19-year-old quarterback playing major college football, and so that's going to happen.
If he had gone through a pretty good season this year, led Tennessee to a good record and a nice bowl, maybe a national championship, if he'd have gone back next year and asked for this $4.4 million, he'd have gotten it.
Yeah.
Probably so.
Yeah.
Probably so. But it would happen probably right after the season.
Yeah.
Not the day before spring.
He didn't have anything to
where
back
all
this
recruiting
up
is really over with.
I look at him, and I'm not a football coach, and I'm not an authority on football, but I watch a lot of football. To me, he just looks like, at this stage, kind of a work still in progress. Does that make any sense?
I think
kind
so.
of a work and still in progress.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree with that.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm glad that UT stuck to their guns, and I know there was some differences between his way of leaving and Lane Kiffin's way of leaving.
Well, of
but
course.
from a Stan's standpoint, neither one of them set very well.
No.
I don't think. Now, from a Stan, let's just look at the fan end of it, the fan base, about the same. The way they felt about Lane living,
because of the holdout. That's what it was. No show yesterday. Yes, the fans will see it the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because he started this, and I think they'll back UT to the hilt about it.
Okay, good. Now I'm going to throw this one right to Dwayne Easter.
Okay, Dwayne. God bless you, Father,
Nico
son.
led him to the playoffs. He was here a year. Is he evolved for life now?
Not after this. He's not. Hey, I'm curious too. What is the highest?
I mean, if you're a 1-year guy or 2-year guys,
I think they're getting all those jerseys right now and dumping it in the river.
Yeah. I'm curious. What's the highest paid quarterback right now? Is $4 million? Is that would be the highest paid quarterback?
Because it's not reported, we only have guesstimates and what people say.
Sketchy information.
Well, you've got. You got the Manning kid, at Texas.
Arch.
Yeah.
Who's
Manning.
hardly ever played.
Back down at Florida State. But
well, maybe we get him to come back. Get Manning back to
How'd Florida State do
Tennessee.
last year?
there was all kinds of rumors about Manning leaving Texas, but there he is.
He's still there.
It's probably a good time.
But he's probably getting a pretty good paycheck there, even when he wasn't playing all that much. He was still getting the paycheck. So
is he on tap to be the starter now, or is he?
Yeah, he's rated in that top 10, top.
So of quarterbacks in it.
Yeah.
So a guy that's really has barely played.
Is in the top 10.
Is in the top 10. That's what I mean. He's
And then you got
Nico.
Nico.
That's like these coaches, we get all these recruiting services.
Yeah. But
I don't even pay attention to that stuff.
The potential with Manning is there.
Yep.
They're looking at that, and they're also
Great
looking
last
at they're looking at that Manning bloodline. You all know that's got something to do with it, doesn't it?
Of course,
of course.
Yeah.
But it's from the father's Cooper, right?
Yeah, Cooper's his dad.
Yeah, who didn't play.
Yeah.
But he was probably they said he was probably a better athlete than either one of the others.
Good, yeah.
Bloodline was kind of what.
Well,
the bloodline.
Hey, I tell you,
we're gonna have to leave Nico. I think we've run it in the ground right here, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what it'll be interesting to see what UT does now. Do they go to the portal? Do they develop what they've got here? Or I can see some real positive things around this. I can see the fan base kind of coming together over this. I can see the team kind of coming together over this, and the coaches staff. It may be I'm glad we're through all this, and let's move on to the next step.
There might be a lot of kids looking at that quarterback.
Yeah.
A lot of the kids around the country say, "Hey, I might just
People
go
who
down
are
and see."
feeling bad are the ones that sells his jerseys at these sports places now.
Right. Hey, we'll take a timeout here, and when we return, Donnie Moore will provide some high school scores and news from around the area, and veteran sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons joins us with his feature Mark It Down. You're listening to the Goteez Sports Page, Blount County Sports Voice, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 90 years, Anderson Lumber Company in Alcoa
that got
has
us going
proudly
pretty good.
served and supported our local communities. Locally owned, so the money made here stays here. Whether you're renovating a kitchen, bath, new floors, doors, or windows, Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store and can take care of you from design to install. We welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa for all your home's needs, or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber since 1925.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month. For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net.
Welcome back to the Goteez Sports Page. I'm here with Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons, and getting into some high school sports here this morning. I'm going to turn it over to Marcus here. You got some baseball, huh?
Well, we got some folks in the house today.
Yeah.
But since Donnie is still in the Sling,
right, he's on injured reserve.
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate him being here on the sideline in a coat, but I'm going to kind of step in a little bit just to give you, I originally thought I was going to have a long list of scores to read off today, but as most people may have noticed, it pretended to be March yesterday, a couple days this week.
Yeah.
And we had a little bit of
February.
there were some teams that braved it out, and we have one of those here. But we don't have nearly as long a list as we usually would right now.
Yeah.
But just to go through some of it, I'm going to skip the first one because we're going to talk to them about it. But Alcoa got a 9-1 win over Lenore City last night in baseball. In softball, Maryville Lady Rebels took an 11-1 win over Carter. And then this is a little bit of a surprise because I had this picked the other way on this score. But Alcoa softball lost to Powell 3-2 last night.
Ooh. Powell's no slouch.
Powell's no slouch. I mean, that's a top division team.
Yes, it is.
But Alcoa can play with anybody. So
you better believe it.
I was a little surprised at that one. I was really picking that one to be a 3-2 the other way. And then the other one, which was I believe a senior night game. I'm going to confirm that here in a minute. But Maryville baseball comes through late in the seventh and gets a 4-3 win over Webb on a cold night at Coulter Grove. And we're actually pleased to have some representatives from the Maryville baseball team here with us this morning. And I'm going to
our scores, of course, are sponsored by Mandy B. Street Realty and her wonderful team over there. If you got any realty needs, see Mandy B. Street Realty.
And given what we're going into with baseball, she'll help you steal a home.
Yes, she will.
Okay. But unfortunately, Coach Lambert had a prior commitment still with baseball and couldn't join us this morning, but he was able to send somebody almost as good, if not better. Coach, thank you for coming in this morning. Last night looks like it was a lot of fun, maybe.
It was a lot of fun, especially to honor the seniors like we did. We did it. We got a few more home games, but we did it just in case the weather doesn't cooperate like it almost didn't yesterday. And got to honor Max Gain and Mac McCord and Mr. Myers, our four seniors. And we did pull one out in the seventh. There's nothing easy for the Rebels these days, but we took the lead in the bottom of the sixth and won it in the seventh.
So I'm cheating because I'm going off Game Changer, which, by the way, I still give them shout-outs. I love Game Changer. It has revolutionized the coverage of high school sports in the spring. But big hit there, tied at 3 in the bottom of the seventh. And you got it. The coaching staff, are y'all sitting in there saying, this better work?
Well, they threw a little lefty at us for, I think he made it through the fifth inning. They finally took him out, and we finally got to him. But he only had like 45 pitches going into about the fifth inning, making us roll over. And he did a good job throwing strikes. We finally got him out, and then they put in a new pitcher, and we hit him a little better, helped with a few walks and errors, like in high school sports. But it worked out for us. And
I guess, where does this kind of put you guys as far as the schedule goes? Because we're a week away from Easter, but Easter's late, so you're not that far from district tournaments. Where are you all sitting schedule-wise as far as what you need to get done these last couple of weeks?
No, we actually have next week a pretty full schedule, and then the following week we have the 24th is our last actual regular season game to get ready for the district tournament. The way they do the district tournament now, we start basically April the 30th, so we got a few more weeks, and then it really starts to get to the grind because you play every day in the district tournament.
Well, I cheated. I was looking at it, and I was looking at this, and I was thinking, wow, this is just about like playing at state tournament, because at Hardin Valley, Farragut, a doubleheader with Heritage, Oak Ridge, at Alcoa, and Sevier County. I mean, was Pigeon Forge busy? Because I don't see anybody else missing from that list.
Well, we had We had Pigeon Forge scheduled for Thursday, and lightning got us that day, so we were supposed to play Thursday against Pigeon Forge on our.
Goodness.
That's a stretch, Coach.
That's brutal.
That's a pretty good stretch. That will test about anybody.
Well, 2 weeks ago we had a stretch, and only one day really got rained out, but so we're going to play them anyways. We played 12 games in like 12 days, so it tests your pitching staff. But we came through it.
Well, introduce who you've got with you here this morning, and kind of where they play and what they mean to the team for you guys.
Well, I got my son here, Max Coleman. He pitches for us, plays first base for us.
Wave, Max. There you go. There you go.
And then I got Kane Baber here. He plays shortstop and also pitches for us.
And pitching's kind of been a little bit of a strong point for you guys this year.
Well, we have Max and Kane, and that's our two seniors that pitch, and Myers pitches, and that's our old heads. And then got Trip Everett, who's a junior, and then after that it goes down to sophomores. So we're young on the mound, and young in the field actually. We have our ups and downs, but it's not. Our pitching staff is built on throwing strikes and not walking people. There's 21 outs to get in the game, and we're not going to strike out 15 people. So we got to field it. We got to field it behind them, and we've had our issues some on that, but we're trying to clean that up for tournament time.
Now, when you have that kind of situation where you have a group of seniors and then you kind of end up with another group of sophomores, is that more of a starter bullpen type situation, or is the schedule where you're going to have to start sophomores some of these games and see what they can do?
No. Last weekend, actually, we started a freshman, and then Luke Owens, who's a sophomore, has started a few games for us. Landon Dockery has started, not Landon, Ben Dockery. Landon's his brother that played for us. Has started a few games for us. So the sophomores are getting a dose of varsity baseball, which is good for them.
And when do you get a hold of the pitchers? Do you see them before high school, or when do you get to start working with them and kind of teaching them the Rebel way, I guess, for lack of a better word?
So in the fall, we see them in the fall, and we do a little bit of not a little bit of baseball. We do a lot of baseball stuff in the fall, but actually getting into more of the pitching stuff, we catch them about January, and that's really when the bullpens and stuff really heat up. But we're teaching them in the fall also to get them ready for those bullpens.
Well, I've been making them sit here to see if they get nervous, but they're both looking at me like they don't care. So I like that from pitchers who aren't fazed by having to wait, because batters love to do that too. Max, what has it been like for this season so far? Is like you're going into this, you've got big dreams, and you know that if you can get out of this district, you can make noise. So how do you all kind of approach the season?
I think for me and Kane going into our senior season, it's not exactly how we pictured it, obviously coming off a region tournament run last year. But it's been fun nonetheless, something that we still get to share together, something I get to share with my dad. And just like you're saying, our district's tough. It's really hard to get out of, but if we get out of there, I think we have a good chance to make a run.
So every pitcher has their – I don't want you to give anything away for batters who may be listening for these next 12 games or so, but tight situation, tie game, and you're trying to close it out. You have a go-to pitch you prefer?
Whatever he calls, I guess.
Whatever Dad calls. That's the best answer.
I don't get much of a choice.
Do you have one that you feel the most comfortable with?
I like my fastball a lot, and I like my slider a lot too. So one of those two for sure.
So how old were you before you got to actually develop something that was off speed or a curve? Like, did you just throw fastballs for a long time?
I think I threw fastball up till I was probably 11 or 12, and then we kind of started working on changeup a little bit, and then around 13, a curveball or slider.
All right. And then, Kane, kind of the same question here for you. you have a favorite setup pitch you would love to get, you like that you kind of like it when you see that sign come across?
For me, the fastball up. I like seeing guys swing and miss on a fastball up in the zone. And then also a slider away, I guess. That's a good pitch for me as well.
And then what's the most frustrating thing when you're pitching? Is it a guy that just sits there and fouls everything off? Is that annoying, or is it the guy who you just never know what he's going to swing at?
Yeah, maybe the guy that just sits up there and battles with you, that makes you throw 8 or 9 pitches, but at the same time that gets the guys going, and the energy starts to get up in the dugout when that happens.
You know, Coach was talking about how you all throw for strikes, and that means you have to have a lot of faith in the defense behind you. Is there points where you have to rally a defense behind you, or is there somebody out there in the field who kind of takes over and says, we've got to back him up?
So like Coach said, we've got a lot of younger guys, and so we're trying to teach those younger guys to be leaders early and not just to rely on our seniors. And so they do a good job recently of getting each other up and backing up the pitchers and just everybody on the field. So.
And then, what's the best part about Culture Grove? What is the secret of that field that only the home team knows? Is there like a time of day when the light is perfect, or a time of day when it's bad, or is there something about that field and the way it sits?
When the sun starts to go down, it gets real pretty, and then I don't know. For me, I see the ball better. When it's not too bright, it's not too dark. And so when the sun goes down is when it's a good time, in my opinion.
And, Max, I left you out of that one. Is there something you really like about the home field? Is there something that you just think this is our thing?
I mean, obviously, looking at our field, I do love that we have turf, because this week it's really helped us a lot, getting to play on Monday against William Blount, and then obviously getting to have a senior night last night against Webb. If it wasn't for our turf, I don't think we would have been able to do that. So I think that's something special about our field that no one else in our district really has.
And Coach, to kind of talk about that, because there's a art to playing on turf, in that you play on it at home, but you're not going to see it that often away from home. Does that change the way you all have to do practices as far as fielding and how you do certain things, because you know you're going to play on some dirt fields and other places?
That's a really good point, and some people probably don't even think about it, but it is a big factor. We fielded a lot better on our field, on turf, true hops. We practice on it all the time. And when we go on the road, some fields are watered, some fields are just rough. Some fields are good fields, but it's just a different bounce coming off a turf or a natural field. We got a little infield up by our hitting facility up at Sam Houston, and we take some ground balls off it, but it's not the same, and it is a factor. Advantage of the turf also, some teams come in and when they steal, they forget how slick it is, and they'll slide past the bag, and we'll get a cheap out every now and then with them sliding past the bag. So that's an advantage.
Especially on rainy nights. Rainy night. I remember the first time I really saw that happen was a Tennessee Vanderbilt game in Nashville, and the Tennessee runner slid for the bag and ended up almost at shortstop before he came to a rest. So it was an easy tag out. But they just weren't used to the turf, because Vanderbilt was a couple of years ahead of everybody else getting the turf infield.
That's right. We've had to bring that up a couple of times this week just because of the weather, to make sure we slide a little earlier than normal, because it happened to us too.
So do you all? I lose track of this with the districts because it seems to change. But is it a set host site this year, or is it district champions and runners-up host? How will the district tournament kind of set up as far as where it gets played?
So 1 and 2 gets a bye in the first round. 3 will play 6, 4 will play 5, and 3 will play 6 at their place. 4 will play 5 at their place, and then the winners will go play at 1 and 2 the next day.
Oh, okay. So we're not in. I guess we can't really do the pod setup, can we? With only this many
not
teams.
With 6, and next year it's going to give them. I don't know what they're going to do. We only got 4 teams in our district next year, so.
Wait. I think I may have missed this fact. There's only 4 teams in the 4A baseball district for you guys next year?
William Blount, Maryville, Sevier County, and Jefferson County.
Well, that sounds all convenient for travel and stuff, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure who got out the TSSAA map on that one, but maybe they kind of were celebrating that 100-year anniversary too much this week and may not have gotten these maps given the attention they should have.
Well, McMinn County and Ray County aren't very happy either because they're getting to come up and play the Beardens and the Farragut's and all them for their district.
Well, okay. I guess enjoy this season while you can, guys, because it's going to get really hairy for the guys you're leaving behind. And I do have to, Donnie's giving me the signal, but I've kind of gone over. But, guys, with it being senior night, what was that like for you all? Was it like, okay, it's just another game and we've got games to go, or was it a little bit like, man, we're going to be graduating soon?
It was kind of like we're going to be graduating soon, but at the same time, you can't get too distracted by what's going on around you. You still got a game to play, but it was definitely different. It was fun to go through that ceremony and with the guys that I've grown up with my whole life, getting to go through it with my dad. But no, for sure, it was kind of like, wow, it's almost done. We got about 2 weeks left.
That's about it.
What about for you?
Yeah, it hit me last night. The ceremony and all that kind of hit me that we were almost done. And so just taking everything in and just, like he said, not getting distracted that we had a game to play, but also taking those moments in.
And, Coach, I'm going to give you one last one here. Shout-out-wise, there are lots of people around that help out the program and kind of step in and help with concessions and fields and PAs and getting kids to practice and all that. I just want to give you a chance if you got some shout-outs for the program you wanted to throw out there on behalf of Coach Lambert. And if you miss anybody, they'll totally be his fault.
Well, I want to say, first of all, Coach Lambert's done a great job in his first year. It's great to have a Maryville guy back. Coach Talley, he came back last year, and then we got Drew Elkins. They're all Maryville guys. But I just want to give a shout out to them. I don't want to leave anybody out, but we have great parents that take care of our facilities and let us coach. Takes care of the concession stands. Take care of Bartlett McMurray was out there the other day trying to get her game ready with a blower, trying to blow the water out of the outfield. We just got a great group of parents. It's a good culture. So I would like to say just thank you to all of them.
And we appreciate you guys coming in this morning, especially after senior night, because I'm sure you wanted to get up at the crack of dawn and come see us. But we appreciate it. And I'll give you the same challenge I throw out to almost every team that comes to visit. We love having you back. We love it even more if you can bring trophies with you. So not that you need the extra incentive, but if you want to show up here with a district plaque or a region plaque or a state championship plaque, we always love to have those come back. So you can always win your way back to another Saturday morning with us. But we wish all the best of luck next week, especially with this schedule, and hope to be seeing you again soon. And Mike will go ahead and turn the page.
Okay, thanks, Marcus. It's time to turn the page. And next up is the Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week segment. You're listening to the Goteez Sports Page. And now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 90 years, Anderson Lumber Company in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. Locally owned, so the money made here stays here. Whether you're renovating a kitchen, bath, new floors, doors, or windows, Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store and can take care of you from design to install. We welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa for all your home's needs, or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber since 1925.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards along with the rest of our broadcast crew, and now it's time for the Goteez Sports Page Player of the Week segment featuring Daily Times senior reporter Marcus Fitzsimmons, sponsored by Anderson Lumber Company, where quality service is always a priority, proudly serving Blount County for over 100 years.
Well, thanks, Mike. As I said, we're at a little bit of a shortage because of the weather and because people are playing a lot of games today to make up to catch up from what they missed at points during this week. And they're trying, because as I said, we're not very far from district tournament, so there are games you just can't. You've got to get made up, and you're running out of weekends to make them up. So that's that kind of got in the way a little bit today. But we appreciate Maryville coming in.
Yeah.
And I kind of neglected to say that we were going to give a Player of the Week and that was going to go to someone who wasn't a senior and wasn't here. So we just kind of skipped over that a little bit, but they don't need to know that unless they're listening right now in the car and they're coming back in and going to, get a pizza here at Bluetick on me for that. I don't know, but there's so much going on this morning. I'm not even sure we finished up with the Nico revelations, and we never even touched the Masters. So I figure we can just keep on rolling, Mike.
Yeah, I've got plenty to talk about. I'm here with Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons and Alcoa basketball standout to Dwayne Easter and Carson Newman assistant football coach Tony Iruli. And I've got some Tennessee Vol notes here, and we're going to talk a little bit about the orange and white game here a little bit later. But the baseball team is in action, Donnie Moore, and get you involved a little bit here. But they had a tough go last weekend, losing 2 out of 3 to Texas A&M over here.
Yeah,
which
A&M
is really unusual for them, and they
played really well.
They didn't only get beat; they got pretty well.
They got hammered.
They got hammered 9-3 and 17-6 after pitching a no-hitter and beating Texas A&M 10-0 in the opener last week. It went downhill from there.
That's true, it did.
But this week they rebounded against Alabama State. They won that one about midweek 10-2, and then last night they beat Ole Miss 3-2 on the road. And
sure did.
They're kind of fighting. I think Tennessee's 4th in the SEC, and Ole Miss is 5th right now. As good as the record, but the baseball team 30-4 now overall, and
only 4 losses.
10-3 in the conference, and the best you got to show for it is around 4th.
And you're around 4th place in the conference. Wow, that's some good baseball getting played right here, guys.
I'm telling you, if you're talking football, baseball, or basketball in the Southeastern Conference, man, it's what they used to call it, Tony Iruli, back in our play, dog eat dog, isn't it?
Dog eat dog.
Yeah. Well, obviously the SEC is no longer a football conference. I mean, and that's not taking away the quality teams that are in the women's sports as well. I mean, it's deep and it's talented.
Sure
well,
is.
They're down at Ole Miss, and Lane Kiffin usually makes a showing when Tennessee comes down there. Marcus, I think
he just can't help it.
I think last year he flipped a golf ball out there or a mustard container or something because of what happened over here in a football game where the fans got a little hot under the collar and threw some things down on the field. So I don't know has Lane settled down from that, or do you expect him to throw something out there today?
I don't know. I've not checked Ole Miss's schedule. I'm not sure that they don't have spring practice still going on today.
Okay.
I think last time Tennessee went down there, it was later in the spring and after spring practice was over, and I believe Coach Heupel went down there for that series. I believe he, kind of like at the College World Series, I think he was in the stands for that one. So I think there may have been some unseen stand activity that was mostly good-natured, possibly not, but you never know.
They got Ole Miss today. They're in Oxford. The Vols are. They play at 5 o'clock, and that's on the SEC Network Plus.
On Plus.
It's on Plus. But tomorrow you can catch them at 3 o'clock on the SEC Network. So they are on live tomorrow on the
If you don't want to watch the Masters, you can always flip over and watch the Vols.
Or you can flip back and forth on the commercials, so you kind of keep up with what's going on.
And see, what I'll do is I have the ESPN app, so I will watch almost every Tennessee baseball game is on the ESPN app with the SEC Plus, so I will watch them and listen to them on the radio. And it's sometimes there's a little maybe a second or two off there.
Yeah,
sometimes you'll see the play before you hear it described. But it's wonderful. It's baseball.
Yeah,
sure.
The ladies softball team, Donnie, down in Texas, and they've got a tough road down there.
They do.
Texas is leading the SEC,
Yeah.
37-3 overall, 10-2 in the league, and they took care. They shut out the Lady Vols yesterday, 3-0
3-0
in the opener. And you can catch the Lady Vols today on ESPN at 6 o'clock for that game with Texas today, and then tomorrow they play at 1 o'clock on the SEC Network Plus.
Pickens starting today? Pickens in the circle?
I don't remember who they have listed as the starter today, but
she can throw that thing.
That's the thing about Tennessee's already gone on the road to play one of the two teams that played in the national championship last year. Now they're playing the other one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you say the conference is deep, I mean, you've got more than half the teams in the College World Series, and Tennessee's played more than their fair share of those already this year in a conference series.
That's right.
Yeah. Did we ever make mention of the fact that one softball pitcher from Tennessee that she broke the?
Yeah, that's
record?
Carlin Pickens.
Okay.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
Well, they've got both now.
They do.
Because baseball has also got the fastest pitch in college.
Wow.
They must feed them pretty good. But they got more money now.
And
they
girls,
help
it's
out.
1 and 2, Tennessee.
Yeah. Use some of that NICO money for better quality food. Yeah.
Rick Barnes added another player, Jalen Carey. He went over and liked what he saw from Vanderbilt. And got him. And so the Tennessee and Rick Barnes is slowly putting together next year's, I call it the all-star team.
All-star team.
Because it's basically that's what you got in the transfer portal a lot of the time. But
so he got a player from Vanderbilt?
Yeah. Carey's played
Big Vandy's pocket.
He's got 2 seasons of eligibility left. Came to Vandy from James Madison, where he followed Vanderbilt's head coach Mark Byington. He's a power forward, 6'8", 265 pounds, averaged 8 points and 6 boards. And
is he the one that's originally from Tennessee?
No, that's Gillespie.
That's Gillespie.
He's from Greenville, is that correct?
Right.
Greenville. And they've already got him on the dotted line. But Carey had 14 points and 10 boards against Tennessee in Nashville.
He played well.
Yeah, Dwayne. So he's hurt us a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we need. I don't know if you consider him a big man, but we need some big.
Well, last week
man.
you and Mike went through the list last week, and it sounded like we needed everything. So he's got to fill one of those holes.
Yeah, I mean,
well, they've got enough confidence in the Vols that on 3 have got them 18th. They've got them in the top 20, and I guess that's based a lot on where they are right now. Coming back with the 2 guys they've got in the transfer portal, plus the freshmen they've got coming in here, and what they have got left over from last season, which is not very much. But anyway, that's where they're at right now. That could change. If they get back in the portal, and they're going to be in the portal for the next several weeks. We'll see, and then there's going to be more additions to.
So they've actually signed someone from high school.
Yeah, they've got
Wow.
I think 3 players coming in from high school.
That's pretty good.
Rick Barnes' salary, $5.8 million. He was paid last year. He earned $1.2 million in bonuses for the NCAA tournament for the advancements.
That's a pretty good bonus.
Yeah, my question to this: too much, too little, too much, too little, about right. Too much, too little, or about right, Marcus?
I like it when the bonuses are big. I prefer it when the salary is a little bit smaller, but with Rick's stature, I mean, I can make that allowance. But I like performance-based incentives.
Yeah,
I prefer performance-based incentives, and I think that's how, if you really want to get into backtracking a little bit, how NIL should be structured. They should be performance-based.
Yeah, because
I mean,
Nico won 4.
Your promise and potential as a senior out of high school is nothing to pay a kid out of. come in here and prove it and do something.
Yeah, I like that. So, you know, $1.2 million, you know, another Elite Eight, second year in a row for him. So, you know, and he had some rebuilding to do this year.
He sure did.
I mean, listen, we were sitting here last year looking at each other about like we're looking at each other right now. Right, Dwayne? I mean, you know, yeah, pretty much.
We lost connect.
I think you should have an incentive that says you get this much for a 20-win season, this much for a 25-win season, this much for a 30-win season. You get this much for making the conference finals. You get this much for making the NCAA tournament, this much for making the Sweet 16, this much for every level you pass past that.
Because that's several incentives.
Make every bar count for something.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you got a base salary.
Yeah.
And then it keeps growing based on the incentive.
Based on how you do.
Now,
I like that.
That's motivation.
But, and that, you know, when you don't have a Rick Barnes, when you're hiring the coach that comes after him that has not been coaching for 30 years, you can go with a much lower base, but you can keep those same incentive clauses in there as
why
the
not?
inspiration.
Yeah.
I mean, I like performance based,
Yeah, I do.
I mean, I'm not going to tie that in with the whole national conversation about it, but in sports especially, performance based is the way to go.
And that's basically kind of what they did with Kim Caldwell, you know, after the season was over, Marcus. Don't you agree? I mean, you know, a lot of people weren't expecting her to have the year she had. She had the year, and she should be rewarded for what she did.
So what does she end up getting this?
You know, they don't disclose. They don't disclose on the deal, but you can rest assured that it's you know, it was fair. I would think. Now, here's a question for everybody. Kim Caldwell's Lady Vols. They're on the rise, and you've got the 5-star players coming in there next year. You know, it looks really good for them. So, and you got Rick Barnes' situation there. He's been to the Elite Eight the last couple of years. Which one of those programs do you think will make the Final Four first? Rick Barnes or Kim Caldwell?
Ooh, that's a tough one to pick, and because there's so much in just the luck and fortune of that bracket that can help determine whether you're an 8 or make the Elite Eight or Final Four.
Yeah. And it turned out that Florida had a better bracket than we had.
They really did.
So we would have been better off getting that number 1 seed if we'd beat them in the SEC tournament. So that's a very legitimate point, Marcus, on that.
But,
deal.
I mean, I would think just because of that recruiting class, I would almost say the Lady Vols can get there first.
Yeah. Anybody else want to throw their hat? Donnie, you want to throw your hat into on?
I started to agree with Marcus even before he said that. I think it's going to be the Lady Vols before it's the men. And I hate that, but I mean I don't hate that they're going to be there first. I just hate that the men are going to be so delayed.
I think it's going to be Barnes.
Dwayne,
I hope
Dwayne has faith.
You're right.
It's been a long.
He's going to go out there.
It's been a long dry spell for the men.
He's going to go to New York, get on those playgrounds out there. He's going to come back with some.
We're going to have a good all-star team next year. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Another Ernie and Bernie.
Barnes is all-stars.
That's right.
Tennessee all-stars.
That's right.
What do you think, Coach Iruli?
I think Lady Vols. I just think that the path is going to be slightly easier compared to the men. And, I mean, you know, so much talent on the men's side, you know, throughout. And I just think the routes are going to be a little bit easier.
When you talk about never being at the Final Four, as good a basketball teams as they've had over here from all, you know, decades, even going back to the 30s and 40s, they had pretty good teams back there. And all through the 50s and the 60s, the 70s, I mean, all the way up to today, and not one time getting into the Final Four. I mean, you're thinking of the Chicago Cubs and the Boston Red Sox back in the day that they couldn't get into the World Series or win a World Series, and we're below that because, you know, the Cubs were, 1908 or something? They won a World Series. I think they had a long drought, and Boston had a long drought too. But
that was a curse of the babe.
Not as long a drought as I think Tennessee's.
It's been a while.
They've been playing basketball a long time.
Yeah, that's a drought.
But here's I'd ask you this question because I was thinking about it on Sunday. Would you rather have been Tennessee and getting blown out in your Elite Eight game, or would you have rather been Duke, who you made it to the Final Four, and then your All-American go-to guy comes up short on an 8-footer in the lane? Yeah, after you've led by double digits with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah.
which would you rather have happen to end your postseason?
Yeah, I know. That was devastating for Duke. I realize that. I'd rather.
They were ahead by 14 points, weren't they?
Yeah.
I'd rather take the missed 8-footer than the shellacking. I think, if it were me.
Yeah.
I'd rather be in the Final Four.
But at the same time, talking about that, Houston, they were up by 12, 14 points over Florida.
They sure are.
And they were, I mean, it was a very physical game on both sides. And they had it, then all of a sudden they turned cold, and Florida just kind of creeped their way back into it.
And what's that old saying, Coach? What goes around comes around.
Yeah.
They really, Purdue had them down.
Yeah.
Purdue just about put them out.
Sure.
And that was a big game too, because I think we'd have matched up a whole lot better against Purdue than we would have been
I
Houston.
thought so too.
Yeah.
I think that game right there was a big factor of us not getting into the Final Four than the way the Houston game turned out.
Yeah.
I think if Purdue had been there, even though that would have been kind of a home game for Purdue, I think we were better than Purdue.
I do too.
I really do.
Matched up better.
Yeah.
The Florida-Houston game was Florida led the entire game for a total of like 22 seconds.
Yeah.
They led in the first 5-6 seconds of the game, and the last 19 seconds.
Yeah. They had an announcer for the 500-mile race, Sid Collins, and he'd announce the race, and invariably there'd be a car go out in the last 10 laps or 3 laps to go, and he'd go, I got to remind everybody out there that this race goes 500 miles, 200 laps. That's kind of the way it is. That's kind of the way I looked at these NCAA basketball. These games go 40 minutes. They go 40 minutes.
Right.
You got to play
They
the whole
do.
40 minutes. And
I tell you, who's got to be feeling sick though is Auburn. I mean, you're number one for quite a while, and then you come in here and they were on top of the, everything, and then, bam, they get beat. I know they had
shellacked.
they've
How
got
many games did they lost? Just one?
No, they've lost a couple.
Yeah.
Okay.
well,
But
And Florida had beaten them before.
that's
Yeah.
the way
Florida
it is.
beaten them once, and they lost in the
There's
SEC tournament
only-
Tennessee, and they
You
lost at
know,
Ole Miss. And
The
That's true.
NCAA has not gone to trophies for everybody. We don't have 1A,
No.
2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A, whatever. We got one champion, and we got what? 68 teams or
68
whatever it might be, and
it started out
the odds aren't good.
Give them a couple years, they'll change to that.
Florida started out, that Clayton guy, he wasn't hitting threes there in the beginning. Remember, he was off.
Yeah.
He wasn't hitting nothing
Yeah.
hardly. And then toward the end, you saw where he came back and started making
But
shots.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
I bet if you took the statistic of who scored the most in the last 10 minutes of a game in the tournament, he led the way.
Yeah.
He was
Now
not
the game
scoring.
before the game before that, he got 34 points.
Right.
He was on fire.
But
that
he had
guy.
almost half of those came in the final 10 minutes.
Yeah. Hey, that's the kind of player you want. It's crucial.
I mean, he didn't make a field goal until like 8 minutes left to go in the game.
Yeah, in the beginning of the game, he was like cold. That's
What
not good
what
for him.
amazed me is the fact that Houston, they drug Florida into their mud. I mean, Houston had Florida playing their game in the 60s. Everything was set up for Houston.
Sure.
Because, Florida's a 90, 80, 90, 100 type ball club up and down the court. And what was amazing that Florida adjusted to that. They adjusted and they got in that mud and sort of acted like they enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Well, they should send Rick Barnes a thank you note.
Yeah, I guess.
Because they had that experience when they came to Thompson Bowling Arena.
That's true.
They had seen it before.
Yeah.
And Houston had beat 33 teams in a row if the team they played against got less than 70 points.
Yeah.
But Florida had less than 70 points, and they got beat.
Yeah. And Houston, they missed some foul shots and turned the ball over and
yeah, they were
right down the stretch. Kind of, I guess what you could say, kind of pushed the panic button a little bit. Yeah.
Then the last shot.
Yeah.
Then the last shot. Yeah.
Hey, it's time for a break. And when we return, it's the Boyd Sports Spotlight. You're listening to the Goteez Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month. For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern, downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and it's time for the Boyd Sports Spotlights segment. And Donnie Moore, I'm going to sit here with you, and we're going to kind of go through some of these. This is normally your segment, and anytime you want to chime in there, you just go ahead and chime in, okay?
You got it, my friend.
All right. Masters Golf Tournament, is in full swing down in Augusta, and boy, I look at those greens out there, and I look at those fairways, and I look at all the azaleas down there, and my first thought is, I wish my yard looked like that.
That's what I was thinking.
Wait a minute, your yard doesn't look like that?
Not quite. Not quite. But, yeah.
Well, mine don't, so that's don't.
But anyway, it's we go from we've always talked about this, we go from the basketball tournament to the Masters to the Kentucky Derby to the Indy 500, and it's that time of year, huh?
Spring. It is. You're exactly right.
I don't think any place in the world's got a spring like we got right here in the good old United States.
So exciting.
As far as sports goes. And the first round, Justin Rose led that first round with a -8, and Bryson DeChambeau -7. That's the long hitter. The long hitter guy. Yeah, he can beat the big-time long hitter. Rory McIlroy is at -6.
And had a great round yesterday to come back to get into that position that he's in now, third, tied for third.
Yeah, and Corey Connors is tied with McIlroy at -6. And you got Matt McCarty is 5th. Not 4th, but 5th, because you got 2 at 3. And he's at -5, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4. It's crowded, a little crowded up there at the leaderboard, isn't it?
With good golfers, too.
Yeah, yeah, and you got some guys there waiting in the wings.
Oh, yeah.
It was good to see a couple of the old-timers, Freddie Couples.
Yes.
Good to see him. And,
it was.
And Bernhard Langer.
Yep.
Yeah, he was there, and he missed the cut, unfortunately, by one stroke.
Oh, man.
One stroke. He missed a putt right there on the last hole, and 67 years old.
Not bad.
He came within that. Usually guys like that are on the senior tour.
Sure.
We'll see you later. But down there and just about made.
Well, when they first showed his picture, I look. I know that guy. Who is that guy? And then when they finally flashed his name, I said,
"Oh yeah,
he was a great player in his
He
spot.
sure was."
Yeah. And you've got Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player and Tom Watson all hitting balls off the first tee. That was kind of exciting.
Yeah,
to see
that
those
was fun.
guys. So, anyway, we got the third round action today.
Right, it's moving day.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So, today's, So, things are going to kind of shape up today. And
they are. This
is
an important day.
And they've had good weather down there so far, haven't
right.
they? The weather's been nice. Sometimes you run into some storms and so forth and wind, but it's been pretty good. I saw there, I didn't catch it. I saw it on Sports Center. I was doing something. Somebody got a hole-in-one yesterday. Anybody?
I saw that.
But I can't remember the person's name, so you got to excuse me on the report. But
Right now, the highlight of the Masters is the 40-foot putt that McIlroy's 4-year-old daughter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, good. That's a good mention. Everybody was excited on that.
Yeah,
weren't they?
that was really good.
And
she drained
it was
thing
like
too, boy.
Didn't know what to think after they made it. The reaction there, the reaction by everybody else was a little different than the reaction you got from the person making the
the 4-year-olds, what do I do?
Yeah, cause all this going on. other things, the Long Beach Grand Prix, the Monaco-inspired Indy race that's held here in the United States is set for tomorrow at 4:30, and it's on Fox. And Alex Palou will try to make it 3 in a row as he's won the first 2 IndyCar races of the season. And so we'll see what happens out there in Long Beach. And then we got somebody breaking the Wayne Gretzky's record.
Yeah, Alex Ovechkin. We've had an Ovechkin watch for the last several weeks over here, but he's done it.
895. Goodness. 895 goals.
39 years old too, and he scored 50 goals this year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's incredible. Not only the amount, but the age that he's doing it at.
Yeah. When Gretzky made that record, I'm not a great hockey fan. I like to watch it every once in a while, but I thought that would never be broken.
I did too.
But he congratulated him on.
Yeah, he's very good about it. Very good about it. Very professional.
Very gracious.
Yeah. And now Ovechkin, he's set the record out there for somebody else to reach, but it may be a while.
Yeah. It may be. You're right. It may be.
Yeah. Don't count on it next year.
Yeah. Well, let's go to some days in sports. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to interrupt and say that before we get to this day in sports, that this segment on Sports Headlines is brought to you by our good friends at Fast Signs.
I knew we were forgetting something.
That's all right.
Usually these guys remind me. I don't know where Marcus was at and Dwayne. I don't know where they were at there this morning.
I usually like.
All right, get us some on this date stuff.
Don't we have a race at Bristol today too?
Yeah, for the first time in since 22, I believe. Yeah. Haven't had any races at all there in the past couple of years.
That's great.
So they're getting back to Bristol today.
Oh, they're back up at Food City.
Yeah, it's a what's that step below Cup cars?
Used to be Bush.
Yeah, I think that's what it is today.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. It's good to have him back.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad to have it back at Bristol.
Yeah, and it's good to have a football coach. Right. Hey, how about that? Okay.
Yes. All right, Mike.
1877, going way back, the first catcher's mask was used in a baseball game. That's a good thing to have now.
Good call. Good call on that one. Absolutely.
Yeah. When you get a 104-mile-an-hour fastball, you want a good mask.
Yeah. 1909, Philadelphia's Shibe Park, later Connie Mack Stadium, the first steel and concrete stadium, opened.
What about that?
And
1909.
The Athletics beat the Red Sox 8-1, and then Philadelphia was then the Athletics, not the Phillies. Back at that time.
That's right.
1931, Joe McCarthy debuted as the New York Yankees manager. 1931. Joe McCarthy.
He was there for about 20 years.
Yeah, I think he was.
And we got some Masters winners. The great 1953, the great Ben Hogan won the Masters. Ben Hogan won the Masters in 1954.
Legends.
Yeah.
Slammin' Sammy Snead.
Slammin' Sammy.
He won the Masters, and he beat Ben Hogan in a playoff match. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and research this, but I think Ben Hogan had the automobile accident. Remember, he had an accident back there.
I think he did,
and I think that Masters might have been his comeback. It was either the Masters or the U.S. Open. I'm not really sure, one of the two. But I think he did play. It was a playoff with Sam Snead, so I don't know which one it was. But this one went into a playoff the very next year, and Sam Snead won it. You know, when I worked down at Tellico Village, Sam Snead came down there when they opened that golf course down there in that golf community.
Really? That was cool.
And I went out there, and he was telling all kinds of stories, and he was telling about playing in a tournament with a couple of young professionals at a golf course up in, I don't know, Ohio or somewhere, and they got on one of the holes, and the other two guys that he was playing the round with said, "Well, how are you gonna hit your ball here?" And there was some high trees, and it dog-legged back to the right. And Sam goes, he said, I normally just go right over them trees. I just go right over the top of those trees. And those young guys says, well, he can do it. He's older than we are, a lot older. We're going to try it. And they both teed off, and that ball just went bing, 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 bing in the tree, bounced back in the woods. And Sam stepped up there, and he hits his ball straight down the fairway. Doesn't go over the trees. They go, I thought you said you went over those trees. He says, well, that was 30 or 40 years ago, and those trees were only about 2 feet high.
Classic story.
I remember him telling that story down there. I'll never forget it.
Nice.
Yeah. 1960, you guys remember this, Bill Veck. Bill Veck, the White Sox owner, he debuted the exploding scoreboard at Comiskey Park. Anybody see that deal? Anybody go to Comiskey and see that scoreboard?
No.
I never did. Of course, he was always into gimmicks. And that was a big thing, that scoreboard.
Points and cakes and point, Wee Willie Keeler. Remember the midget that he had come up.
I was about to mention. See, he was the owner. Wasn't he owner of the St. Louis Browns or something like that?
The Browns.
Browns. That's when he first.
That was Wee Willie Keeler.
Yeah,
very good.
Then you had Disco Night. Remember Disco Night? Where they had the riots.
That did.
that one didn't go.
That was
over
the
very
end of
good.
disco right then and there.
And then I think they had
thank God for that.
They had a fan lockout night. Remember, they didn't let the fans into the ballpark. You remember that? They had to stand out in the parking lot, listen to the game.
Really?
Yeah, he had some crazy stuff going on.
Oh, man.
Yeah. 1970, the Yankees dedicate the plaques of Joe DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle. I guess that's the center field deal they had at Yankee Stadium, and that goes back where nobody could hit the ball out. Center field.
Center field was like 450 feet.
Yeah, it
something
was
like that.
I always thought that was interesting. I don't know why ballparks today wouldn't put something back in like that. Because I thought it was always interesting to see an inside the park home run. Yep. And you could see that at Yankee Stadium, and the old Polo Grounds were the same way because it was such a long distance out there. And they had those monuments right in play, remember? There was guys that hit balls out there, and they'd roll behind the monuments.
Oh, really?
Yep. Mike, I just want to toss this in because we didn't mention it earlier, but the Knoxville Smokies.
That's right.
Boyd Sports. Yeah. They unveiled the 6 statues for Smokies Park earlier this week. Really? And I'm not going to list them all, but they are all Negro League players who were set records, and they're all out of East Tennessee and mostly from Knoxville.
Yeah.
But they had them on display, and they're going to be installed this week at their permanent locations. But one of them goes to Little League, which I had never seen before, is honoring the Little League in Knoxville that broke all sorts of barriers. And has anybody ever heard of that? A Little League getting a statue at a professional ballpark?
No, I have not.
I just thought that was I thought it was fascinating and a good move by them. I thought they might have left out a player from Alcoa who could have been in there, but he didn't actually play in the Southern League, so I'll forgive him. But did play in the Texas
Very
League.
good. And I think they open up next week. Is it next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday.
Yeah,
Next
the new park.
But I thought I'd give that shout out.
And
forgot
plus,
that since we're talking about statues.
Yeah. Plus, where the ballpark's located it was in the Negro community, and
well, it wasn't. Yeah, at one point that was part of the old city where
and they gave great recognition to the people who lived in that area, and I thought it was wonderful the 5 or 6 statues they put together, and it kind of makes you remember and realize all the obstacles they had to go through and just to play baseball. But they also recounted stories of when players from the major leagues would come down here during the off season, play against the Negro League teams, and and just great games between them.
Yep. Anyway, sorry to interrupt your headlines.
I
know you got a couple more left.
Interrupt me anytime you
Marcus
want to.
always has this great information. I mean, don't.
Let's see. I got Frank Robinson in 1988 became manager of the Baltimore Orioles.
That's right.
And I think he might have been the first black manager. Is that correct in Major League Baseball?
I think that's right.
I think that's right.
I think that's correct.
With that hiring, I think. Birthdays, 1944, Mike Garrett was born. Remember Mike Garrett?
Mike Garrett.
Running back.
Running back. Heisman Trophy winner, 1965, played out at Southern Cal.
That's right.
He played out there at Southern Cal. I think he's one of the first tailbacks at Southern Cal that won the the Heisman.
Won the Heisman. Yeah,
And
there's
a lot.
a few of them did.
Donnie, there was a lot to follow him that won Heisman's out there at tailback for
No
sure.
kidding.
Yeah, OJ.
Yeah.
Before.
Going
You know,
way.
Donnie, we need to get a buzzer onto this soundboard over here just for Tony. Just so I can ding him every now and then.
Well, you haven't been able to ding anyone since Ray. It hasn't been.
Haven't needed to.
Going way back, 1924, Curtis Turner, NASCAR driver. He drove in 184 races, 17 years he raced. He won 17 races. He was born on this date. And in 1942, Carlos Reutemann, who's a Formula One driver, was also born on this date. Carlos Reutemann, he drove for Ferrari. And 1966, Lorenzo White. Lorenzo White played for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Running back.
Yeah.
Played for the Cleveland Browns running back.
Remember him.
Yeah.
Heisman Trophy.
I remember the name. I do.
Let's see. On this date, Phil Wrigley died in 1977, 82 years old.
Phil Wrigley.
On the Cubs.
Cubs.
Wrigley fan.
Yeah.
Cubs.
Yep.
You know, chewing gum. We all,
Right.
back in our day, we'd get our Wrigley's chewing gum. I'm
Sure would.
1980, Joe Louis. He passed away at the age of 66, heavyweight champ.
Yep.
1963, Sugar Ray Robertson. Passed away at 67, middleweight.
I'd hate to get hit by either one of those guys.
Middleweight. Two great champions passed away
on the same day. Wow.
Same
Wow.
day, yeah.
Wow.
2019, Forrest Gregg. You remember him, don't you?
Yeah.
Coach.
Offensive tackle, Green Bay Packers.
Green Bay
Number
Packers.
75.
Later coach.
Played right tackle.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in 2020, Sterling Moss died at the age of 90. He was a great Formula One driver. He won 16 Formula One championships. One of the all-time greats.
That's great.
Yep. Okay. Anybody got anything to add to that?
Anyone
All
else?
right with that?
Anyone else?
Exhaustive. You did good.
All right.
I don't know any birthdays.
No.
Well, let's go back to some on the line news. Tennessee. Donnie is going to play Georgia Tech in football in 2026. They're going to, and 2027.
Yeah.
They're replacing Nebraska, who canceled out the season. The first game will be played. It seems like, or they're trying to get, or going to be finalized at some point, hopefully, in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. It will not be played.
Okay.
It will not be played at Georgia Tech.
Yeah, it's going to be a neutral
Grant.
site.
It's not going to be played at Grant Field.
Okay.
So they're going to.
Is that their opening game or?
I don't know whether it's the opening game or not. It's either the first or second game, I think, of the season. Tennessee played Georgia Tech from 1954 to 1987 every year but 3.
Yes. Used to be a regular opponent.
Yeah. And the last time that Tennessee played Georgia Tech, they won in 2017 in Atlanta, 42-41. And the Vols own the series record at 25-17-2. Georgia Tech, for a long time, was a member of the Southeastern Conference.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the coach at that time was played at Tennessee. Dodd.
Bobby Dodd.
Bobby Dodd.
Bobby Dodd was the coach down there, and somehow or another there was there was something that happened. I don't know if it was an altercation with maybe another school, or he got upset about something.
Well, legend was he and
withdrew.
Bear got into it.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It had to do with Alabama. It was an altercation or a fight or something, and then he pulled out of the Southeastern Conference, and I think they probably regret ever doing that. But they were independent for a long time, and then went to the Atlantic Coast Conference. But I think that was always kind of a great series. I think it's a good move going away from Nebraska to Georgia Tech because there's some history there, and some tradition.
Yeah, and
Georgia
plus
Tech.
I think your attendance would be a lot stronger, being two southern schools, and I think that's good. Now, will both games be in Atlanta?
No, the first game will be in Atlanta. The second game will be up here.
Up here, okay.
Let me throw this question out to anybody that wants to field it. How would you compare, as far as strength of football programs, those two schools in the last 5-6 years?
Well, I think
Which one's a better opponent for Tennessee?
Oh, you're talking about Nebraska.
A stronger opponent. Yeah,
Right.
Nebraska and Georgia Tech.
I think Georgia Tech's a move up.
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I agree with Mark.
And I think not only in strength, but also in the caliber of the game and in the interest of the fans.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
I think
I
it
can see
checks.
that.
Yeah.
Now, 25 years
all
ago,
your
I wouldn't
boxes.
feel that. I wouldn't feel that
No,
way. 25 years
no,
ago,
not that long
or 30
ago.
years ago, I wouldn't feel that way.
I think it
'cause-
checks all your boxes as far as a good out-of-conference series.
Yeah.
Where Nebraska does not anymore.
I can't argue with that.
I think people, when they think Nebraska, they think of Nebraska in the Tom Osborne.
In their heyday.
And,
when
Bob Delaney.
Yeah.
Bob Delaney coached out there
Yeah,
before.
when I was a GA at Missouri, we would play Nebraska. I mean, that was in the heyday with Mike Rozier and all those great players over there, and it was they were awesome to play against and all that. That was right in their heyday. But now I think it's a better game playing Georgia Tech, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't argue with that.
Could Georgia Tech get back in the SEC at some point, or?
I think they'd have to tear down the stadium. I think there's like some provision that they would have to remove Dodd's name for that to ever happen. Kind of like they had to tear down the student center at UT because to allow Sorority Row to be built.
Yeah.
I mean, I would not be surprised if the provisions on his name on that stadium would be, and we'll never join the SEC.
Yeah.
Really?
Georgia Tech, maybe you can answer this question, but they do have a national football championship. I can't remember. Was it in the 80s or 90s?
91, I think.
Yeah, and
I think it was shared. I think it was shared between them and Nebraska, if I remember.
Yeah,
right.
that's before they had the national championship game.
It was the championship that inspired the BCS.
Okay. Correct.
Because
correct.
the AP had one champion and the coaches had another.
Right, and so they had dual national championships,
see.
and yeah, Marcus is
I
right.
see.
That was probably the big thing that spurred
Yeah.
the national championship game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But they
look
do.
where we are now.
They do have great tradition down there. The Rambling Wreck and all of that. It's
Do they still drive that thing onto the field?
They still drive
they
it
still
out
do.
there. Still drive it out there. I think when
it's crashed a couple times too.
Well, it looks like it.
Well, I think of Georgia Tech. I think of the game that was the first game Condredge Holloway played.
Was it?
And he went down there and he threw I think he threw an interception, and he ran the intercepting guy down. He ran it all the way back to Tennessee's 5-yard line, but he went after him. He went after him. He just didn't let him go. And then the rest of the game, it was all Condredge Holloway.
Yeah,
he ran.
I love
he
to
ran
watch.
and he passed, and I mean it was a
I love to
highlight
watch
field.
him. I liked him.
Yeah,
love to watch him play.
and
run.
then I'm going to things that probably Georgia Tech fans don't want to think about, and then I think about Rudy playing in the game.
That's right, Rudy. That's right. Rudy got the sack
against Georgia Tech.
That's right. That's right.
Against Georgia Tech.
There you go. Got the blindside sack.
They got him in the movies.
Rudy.
Rudy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the orange and white game. Gosh.
Well, gosh.
The limelight's kind of been taken off that deal.
Yeah.
I had it all lined up here to talk about the game, but anyway, they're going to let 45,000 people in there. It's going to start at 2:00 this afternoon, and admission is $10. No live television, and the Vol Network will carry the game. The Vol Walk starts at 11. So, man, can you imagine what kind of discussions and going on over there between Vol fans and the guys on the Vol Network, and what are we going to say, and who the quarterback's going to be in the game, and how long they're going to play, and are they going to shorten the game because of what's happened over here?
Well, looking at the roster right now, there's now only 2 quarterbacks that's on the roster, and one's a freshman out of the Nashville area, 6'6" quarterback, but I can't recall his name. So to me, it doesn't look like they've got very many quarterbacks right now.
Well, it looks like they definitely know who's going to start the game today on both sides.
Yep.
What are they going to do with all those jerseys with Nico's name on them?
I don't know.
They lost their value.
There is a very large pile of discarded garments down in South America. It's acres wide. It's acres large. It shows up on satellite view. I believe it's going to have an orange tint very shortly.
No, they're made in China, so we got a big tariff on them right now. So they have a hard time bringing it on over here.
Yeah, those 2 quarterbacks are Gaston Moore and Jake Merklinger.
Okay.
The 2 quarterbacks. They're going
That's
in.
a
We're going to be the
football
backup.
name, isn't it?
Merklinger?
Merklinger.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought Gaston Moore got in the portal.
Oh,
Has he
you
not?
think he's not?
I thought he left.
Well, they don't have but one then.
Merklinger, they said, was going to be
Okay.
expected to take the snaps today.
Okay.
Probably for both sides then.
And I feel sorry for Navy Schuler right now. I mean,
Yeah, really.
This would have been his opportunity. He was just a year off.
Yeah.
I think, and maybe he was seeing the signs and was hoping it was going to happen last year, but he was a guy who could have gotten his shot right here. This could have been his. This could have been his spring game.
Yeah. Coach, I really. What's the purpose of this? What's the purpose of this game now? I mean, what are we looking for?
Well, purpose of spring game is really, it's for the fans and more than anything. The players, they get excited about playing each other. The big thing for coaching staff is, hey, let's make sure we don't do anything that's going to get anyone hurt. So there'll be no contact. Protecting the quarterback. They'll blow the whistles real fast. We see a lot of spring games. A lot of times they just thud. They just don't bring them down to the ground.
For Tennessee, though, I think to make the fans happy, and that's before you had today.
Yeah.
But I think you wanted to see some of these guys that you signed come in and catch the football.
Right.
Because I think that was the point everybody was disappointed in last year.
Correct.
Now, that got a lot harder today because of what's happened. But I think you want to see some of those freshman receivers and what they can do. And I think people want to see some of those linemen, which is hard to say, but they want to see those linemen stand up and block somebody.
Correct.
Because they know that they've got a young line next year.
Right. And and again, the spring game is a way to bring the fans back. Back to Tennessee Stadium and getting them excited about the upcoming year. Obviously, with things that's happening today, there's we know what the conversation is going to be going on in the stands and all that. Yeah. But if there's players that are kind of nicked up and all that, the coaches are going to protect them. They're probably not going to play them and all. But it's just kind of get through the whole situation.
Yeah. And one thing you say is that you can tell how it's a totally different subject, how UT baseball has grown, is they used to lobby to get the orange and white game to be played when they had a home SEC series, and they would schedule that so you could go from the orange and white game
then go to baseball
to the baseball game afterward, just so they could get a crowd.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't think obviously they don't have that problem anymore.
Yeah, that's right. I hadn't heard. Are they charging admission to the orange and white
$10.
game?
$10.
And it goes to the collective. It is not going to UT.
Won't go to Nico.
Not going to Nico. Nico's off.
No.
Yeah. Another thing they're looking for, is they're getting some of they're going to have the vol walk and kind of the game day deal.
Right.
So you got some freshmen there that if some of them are going to have an impact, then that gives them the game day.
I think they're going to announce the Hall of Fame inductees that got their awards last night. I think they're going to name them at the game.
Good. Okay. That's okay. Good thing. I got some interesting things down here before all this happened this morning. I had one of my questions. Nico, the projected starter for next year, the head of the snake, so to speak. How many snaps would he get today? Well, he's going to get no.
He's going to get a grand total of 0.
The only thing I hope is that ESPN's not wrong and that hasn't made us wrong, and he's not actually going to show up out there today.
We're relying on
We're relying on
wouldn't that be something that they come running out
sources.
of the tunnel and all of a sudden now there's Nico running out there.
I mean, now that this has been on TV and if this is right and if the reports are right and he's heard them and he's hearing the reaction, I doubt he's listening to us, but from Knoxville Sports Radio, you got to wonder if he's not going,
Yeah. What have I done?
Well, he's probably signing autographs at the autograph tent for $25. You can get his autograph. It's probably not very many takers there get anything signed. But I had another thing for discussion this morning. Is this year's team geared around Nico or Dylan Sampson? Well, looks like Dylan.
Dylan just moved up.
Looks like Dylan just stepped into the spotlight.
Sure did.
It's funny how things work out, don't it? Huh? Yeah. Another point is the receivers. The receivers did not have a good year, Tony. over here last year.
No, and
that's a big question.
Yeah, that was, and we talked about it a couple minutes ago. That I think that's something that a lot of fans and coaches want to see is how they perform in the spring game, and see who's going to really step up and be the top 1, 2, or 3 receivers right now. So that's obviously something that people were hoping to find out.
And that's one of the big things in the spring game is to get your timing down. With new receivers and the quarterback, and now you're all up in the air about that now.
Yeah, and plus getting them to play at Neyland Stadium as well, and so they've been playing at the practice facilities or in the indoor part of the facilities.
Hey, it's time for a break, and when we return, we'll be back to close out today's show. You're listening to the Goteez Sports Page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month. For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, and it's time for the Boyd Sports Spotlight segment continuation. And I'm here with longtime sports page veteran Donnie Moore and sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons and Carson Newman assistant football coach Tony Aruli and former Alcoa basketball standout Dwayne Easter. I know this all changes. This all changes because it's one of the questions I had regarding this Tennessee football program. The biggest challenge, now that's what's happened this morning, is the biggest challenge finding a quarterback. You got to get somebody out of the transfer portal, or you got to get somebody that doesn't have any experience ready to play. Is that the biggest challenge facing this football team right now? Plus, getting your team and your coaches and everybody else on another mindset now.
Mm-hmm. Given the events of today, if there are indeed events, then yes, finding a quarterback is the number one priority. Getting, like you said, getting your team and your coaching staff into a different mindset is also paramount.
Yeah, see what they're going through right now is go through a game day routine.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, this is the first time they've really gone through it, where now, they'll start off the morning with having a team breakfast, position meetings, then go on over to the stadium, then do the different pregame workouts before. So they'll go through all that. And a lot of them, it's really the first time they've done that.
But that's the bad thing that this puts you into is we have ample evidence that Josh Heupel's offense is not simple. And bringing a quarterback in August or even in June does not look like an ample time frame to learn that offense and run his full offense.
Yeah.
So
and that's why
you've got a choice between the guys on the field today or somebody who's going to be on a limited offense for next season because they're not going to have time to absorb the whole thing.
Right, and I think that's going to be one of the real animosity towards Nico is not that he did, but when he did it. Now, if he did this back in December, all right. But now this is at the end of spring, where really recruiting's over. Who's going to be available to transfer into UT, and are your other places? They're set with their quarterback. They're not going to possibly transfer, and it's going to be.
That's true. The timing of the whole thing is a fiasco.
I know it's a bad cloud hanging around here this morning. and I hate to even bring this up.
Go for it.
Oh, but do it anyway.
But you got
Do
the
it.
transfer portal open up on Saturday. Are you going to have other players over there go, hey, we're losing Nico. I thought this might be the year we can go on into the playoffs and maybe go on to the national championship the next 2 years or so. We're without a quarterback right now. Gee, maybe it'd be better for me to put my name in the hat and maybe head to a school that looks more favorable as far as the playoffs. And so
That could very easily
I
happen.
hate to bring that up, and then you got your problems have multiplied if that happens.
Yeah.
Better believe it.
It's like we said earlier. The rule is there are no rules.
There are no rules.
There
That's
are
where
no
you need
rules.
to get a Manning in here right now. They'll just calm everything down.
There you go.
Yeah.
We need to get Peyton on
That-
that.
Well, if we went after the Manning down there at Texas,
He's making
2.4 is a little short.
Yeah, he's making $4 million.
And if we're not paying 4 to Nico, are we going? Well, I might consider paying 4 to Manning.
Could you imagine?
I might whip that 4 out.
Can you
for him.
imagine the excitement though?
Yeah.
If they were able to pull that off to get him up here, I mean
Now,
everything would change.
is he now the starting quarterback at Texas, or is he still the backup?
No, it looks like he'll be the starter.
He's slated to be the starter
Yeah,
this coming season.
I think he's going to be the guy.
Yeah.
So it's going to take more than $4 million to get him up here based on what he's got going right now. And Texas has got everything going. They're they're looking for playoffs, but going back to the playoffs. And he played quite a bit last year with the main quarterback being hurt.
Yeah.
So he's a little bit seasoned. He's not there where he needs to be, but it's not going to take them long to get. He's already acclimated to the program.
Sure.
And he's ready to roll. Okay, now all this being said, is there another challenge? Anybody see a bigger challenge than what we've talked about here? Marcus, you see a bigger challenge?
Get a quarterback.
I don't see the bigger challenge, but we also don't know what we're going to see today and how reliable what we see is going to be given the teams getting hit with this. Yeah. I can't imagine the guys are all that up for it, and they're going to – that's a challenge for the coaching staff. So I'm
really
kind of curious to see how excited they are running on that field as be a good of indication of how good this coaching staff is as anything else.
Well, another big challenge would be get the all that apparel is to get Nico's name off the back and put Samson's name on there plus his number. That's going to be that's a job for Goteez. We need Brian in here to see how that's going to work. If he's got some type of process that he can change all those shirts over
No doubt.
out there at his place. But, hey, with all this being said, what's your not too early prediction for the record?
Why are you looking at me?
Well, yeah,
Because you're always Mr. Rain Cloud, and we can kind of base everything up from you, Marcus, because you're always kind of the dark side. So, Darth Vader, what's your prediction going in after what's going on?
I was at 8-4, but now I'm dropping to 6-6.
Wow.
Woo.
Two-game swing right there, huh?
Tony?
I think they'll find a way to. You got to remember, he's always done a great job with his quarterbacks, and if there's the one in waiting, maybe that he'll come through. I still think he's about a 7-win team, about a 7-win team.
I kind of agree with him. 7 wins.
7 wins. Donnie?
I'm going to be optimistic. I think Coach Hype will have all the problems solved, and he's going to go 8-4.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to be the most optimistic of everybody. I looked at their schedule, and I don't know. There's some games on there that I feel like that we could play quarterback and win. You know what I'm saying?
What's their non-conference?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech.
No, the year after next.
Oh, that's year after next.
Georgia
Okay.
Tech. And they also got Kennesaw State on there the year after next. So
that could be a tough one.
I'm going 9-3.
You are optimistic.
Hey, wow.
I'm going 9-3.
And I'm going to say,
I'm thinking the fans are going to pull through. That everybody's going to. This is going to bring Tennessee football together.
and if we call Charlie, I'm going to say he would go with 11-1. Is that?
Charlie's got him probably.
Mark Charlie down for 11-1.
Charlie's already texting it right now.
10-2, 11-1. But I just think everybody's going to come together. They're going to get all fired up. They're going to go, hey, let's win this. Let's do this season for Nico leaving. You know.
Yeah.
Let's don't let us. Let's
That'll
don't let us.
That'll be the motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Marcus is over here. We're going to call it a day. And Donnie, again, it's great to have you back here this morning.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks to Wayne
I
Easter for being
here,
and Tony, and always great to see everybody. And
that whistle blow because
it's
struggled the last week. Now, Marcus, you did a better job last week. I will admit that.
Right now,
but the previous 2-3 times now, it's struggled.
I've never seen a guy struggle with a whistle and have more turnovers in a couple of weeks than this guy right here.
Hey, you can tell he's never
I'm
been a
gonna
coach
mute
or a
you
referee.
all.
Hey, it won't be the first time. Won't be the first time. All right, you're the man.
All right, ready?
You're the guy. Hey, that'll do it. Hey, how about that? Hey, that'll do it for today's edition of the Goteez Sports Page. Thanks to Aaron Ishmael back at Loud Media, our host of Bluetick Tavern, and all our sponsors. For Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons, Tony Aruli, and Dwayne Easter, until next Saturday, this is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, wishing everyone good sports.
And that's the final whistle. Join us again next Saturday for the Goteez Sports Page. The best in local sports since 1978.